discipline, travel, relationships, building an online business, and the body of a Spartan. Welcome to the Grab the Bull podcast with your host, Dan Marquis.
Welcome to the first episode of the Grab the Bull podcast. This is your host, Dan Marquis. This podcast is about grabbing the bull and taking control of yourself, your life, your reality, and your legacy. It's about becoming the man you're destined to be. This podcast is very politically incorrect and completely uncensored. We're going to be speaking plainly and discussing taboo topics in this podcast. You'll learn from my experiences living in many countries all over the world for the past 8 years. You'll learn how to start a business on the internet, how to finance your dreams and gain independence from wage slavery, how to succeed with women, how to get in great physical shape, how to live anywhere you want and make money, and how to give the rules of life a royal fuck you. All right, let's start out with some proof of concept. When I started doing this and where I lived, because for the past 8 years, since 2014, 2015, I have not been living in my home country, and I have been making my income using the internet in order to finance my life and my travels. So the first country I lived in was Thailand, and I lived in Thailand for 3 years. And then I went to the Philippines and I lived there for a year. I spent some time in Cambodia, some time in Laos. I spent some time in Vietnam. I spent some time in Colombia in South America. And then I went back to Thailand again for a while. And then I went to Eastern Europe. I went to Belarus and lived there in Belarus. And then I went to Turkey and lived there. Then I went to Ukraine. Then I went to Albania. Then I went back to Ukraine. Then I went to Poland. Then I went to Latvia. Then I went to Thailand. Then I went back to South America and lived in Ecuador, Argentina, Costa Rica, etc. So I've really lived all over the place. And I've done this all not following the traditional path of, how you're supposed to live your life. So that's like my proof of concept, what I've done with this. And, I've done this all by, I went to college, I went to university, I got a university degree, but like you guys, like many of you out there, when I was in university, I was thinking, what the hell is this? And I was scared, of, finishing university, because it was like, this isn't preparing me for anything. And basically it seems like my life, after school is just going to be like dog shit and like worthless, because, the path that they lay out for you in the world that you're supposed to do is, it's like, okay, well, you're supposed to go to school, you grow up, you go to high school, then you go to college, then, and you have all this fun in college and everything, and then you get out, and then once you get out, you work, and you get hired from someone, you go suck up to someone, you go become someone's bitch and take orders for the rest of your life, and you work for the rest of your life. And that just sounded like, okay, so basically you're telling me once I'm finished with school, my life is over, basically? Like my life is just going to become a living hell? Because that's how I saw it with my parents. I mean, growing up, my parents are baby boomers. And growing up, I mean, I literally saw, that's what my dad did. He took a traditional path of going to university and then being an engineer in Silicon Valley. And it was a living hell for him. It was literally a living hell. And, just like stress and just extreme stress, and, not being able to be with his family much, working overtime constantly, always working on salary, but working more hours than supposed to be working. And just, like, not being in control, like wage slavery, like the job being in control. And basically, having like this constant fear too of like, if get fired, then fucking life is over. So like basically having, a company, a corporation hanging a noose around your neck, and they can just fucking kill you at any time. You're their slave, and they're in complete control of you. And this is what I saw in my own family growing up. And I just thought, man, I never want that to be me. I will never do this. I saw that and I just said, no. And so basically, I started thinking, right away, that I got to do something else. And, people would ask me, or, I was supposed to be thinking about in high school, what job do you want to do when you grow up? And, I would be like, well, I don't want to do any of these jobs. I'd look at all the jobs and be like, no, I don't want to do any of them. They all suck. And I don't want to have any part of that. And so I had this idea in my head of just like, being a kid is cool, but being an adult is just like, I'd rather be dead than be an adult. And that just seemed inherently not right to me. I was just like, why the hell would we be living this life where, it just sucks? You're just living this life that just sucks, and you're just drudging through it. And every day is another day of hell. And I just said, no, I am not doing that. And so from a young age, I started thinking about, what are different alternatives I could do? So I remember when I was about 15, 16 years old was the first time I thought about, well, maybe I could live in a different country. And, like if I could make money in America, then I could live in a different country. And if I had like enough money saved up from America, I could like live in a good life in a different country and like not have to work anymore. So I wouldn't have to like live a life of hell. And so that was like my idea when I was like 15, 16 years old. And I remember saying it to my parents. I was like, well, maybe I could make like $300,000 or $500,000 working in the US, and then I could just retire and I could go live in South America. And they were like, what? I remember the idea had never crossed their heads. It's like not something that they had ever considered and was insane to them. And I remember I told it to a few other people too. And I remember everybody was just looking at me like, are you crazy? Like, are you insane? And I didn't think it seemed insane. I thought it seemed like a pretty good idea. But anyways, so I let that fade. I let that go on the back burner for a while. And, I just didn't, I put it away, but that was my first experience of thinking, you know what, here's, thinking of an alternative from the system, from the path that we're supposed to follow, and being like, well, maybe here's something else I could do. Okay, so let's get on with my life a little bit. Okay, so finished high school. I went to college. I went to university for 1 year. And during that university of 1 year, I was not interested. I always could do really well in school. I could always get straight A's if I wanted. But the thing is that I didn't want it. Yeah, I felt like, what the hell am I being taught in these schools? I liked stuff like history, like math, like geography, and stuff that I thought was useful. But all this other stuff, and English too, but all this other stuff that I was learning, I was like, I don't want to learn this. I don't want to sit here. And I always felt like I wanted to learn things on my own. I didn't like school, and I didn't try in school. I got by on natural talent. And so when I went to university, the first semester, I got straight A's because I was like invested, okay? And then after that, I got basically straight F's because I decided, you know what? I'm not here to study, okay? I decided I'm here to go to parties, and I'm here to get with women. And so that was the only thing I focused on. And if I would skip class, I would not go to class. Class learning, that was the furthest thing from my mind, man. That was the furthest thing from my mind. The only thing I was thinking about is how can I get with more girls? How can I get to more parties? How can I go more insane and go more crazy and get this energy out that I have as this, 18-year-old teenager dude, where I just like feel like the system is screwed, and I just want to like get this energy out because I hate the system so much. And I got all these hormones, and I gotta just completely rebel. That was my thing. Is I was a rebel. I would get in trouble everywhere I went. I got in trouble, from elementary school, middle school, high school, university. Always was getting in trouble. I was a rebel, and it was because I didn't like this system. I from the very beginning, I said this system is crap, and I am not doing it. And so, anyways, after failing that university semester at school. My parents, they were paying for my university, and they said, well, what are you doing? And I didn't really have anything to say. I was just like, well, I wasn't going to class. I wasn't studying. And so they were like, all right, well, you're done. And so they pulled me out of university, and I had no way to make money. So it's not like I could stay in university. So I had to drop out of university, which, sucked. And so I was, back at home in California. I grew up in Silicon Valley, California, and I was back there, and my parents every day were telling me, get a job. And I was saying no, because, they were saying, get a job, which is like one of these jobs where, you go be a slave for someone again. And I was always ideologically opposed to this. And I just thought, what is the point? What is the point of doing these jobs? And I was very immature too, very immature. So now I realized that, I was an 18-year-old man. Yeah, I need to be able to be taking care of myself. Obviously, I was relying on my parents to take care of me, and I was taking that for granted. And, they had a point, of course, with telling me, you have to get a job. And then me saying no was like disrespectful and, not the right thing to do. But I was very immature at the time, and I did not understand these things yet, okay? I didn't understand, I thought that my parents like had an obligation to take care of me or something. I don't think that I thought that at the time. I'm not sure, but now looking back on it, I think that's must have been, I was taking that for granted, that I wasn't out on the street because I wasn't earning my own money, because I'd always been taken care of up to that point. So I guess you could call me a child still at that point. And so, my mom would be, telling me, you got to go get a job. So every day, I couldn't be in the house. I would have to be out. And, instead of going and, getting my job like I was supposed to do, flipping burgers or folding clothes or, running a cashier or some stuff, pointless crap like that, I would just go sit at the park, and I would just sit at the park and I'd just watch the birds and watch the ducks swim or whatever, and just waste the day away, right? Just let the day pass. And I was pissed, man. I was pissed at my life. I was like so angry, man. And I felt like destruction, I felt like this drive to destroy. And because, I was angry about being pulled out of school, because now I couldn't chase women anymore, because that's what I wanted to use college for. That was the whole reason I even wanted to go to college, was to chase women. And so now that had been like taken away from me, and then like my only option left is that it was, going and trying to do one of these pointless, jobs that is just like being a slave. And not even having any progression or being able to live the path of the normal person anymore, even having that taken away, being out of school, being a dropout, I was just like angry, I was angry, man. and so, basically, but so that was that, okay? I was angry. And then what happened is I got this girlfriend, right? I got this girlfriend. She was of European descent, okay? Caucasian white person like me. And we started dating, okay? And she was 18, and she was still in high school. And I was 19 by this time because I'd finished 1 year of college. And so we started dating and things got really serious. I don't even know why. I really don't even know why. I think a lot of it had to do with lust, to be honest. I think that, there was definitely like emotional feelings and emotional attachment, but we were not compatible on an emotional basis, on basic values basis, okay? So one of the things was that, she had very feminist tendencies, and also she had parents that went through an ugly divorce, okay? And so the victim in divorce is the children. When people get divorced, the children, their lives are destroyed because this fundamental thing that you grow up with in psychology, you grow up with an Oedipal complex, with an Electra complex. And this is how you develop your attachment to your parents, and your self-image as a man or a woman is by solving this Electra or Oedipal complex. That, talking about what that is for another time, okay? But if you guys are really interested, you can look it up. But these are psychological concepts, okay? And your parents' love for you is what gives you your self-esteem about who you are and that you're an important person. And if your parents leave you, when they split up, they leave. They may say, I'm not leaving you, kid. I still want to be with you, kid. But that's not how it's interpreted to the child. The child interprets the breakup of their mom and dad as the abandonment of themselves, that the child is being abandoned by mom and dad. And this is the most ugly thing for a child's life, okay? It destroys them. And so this girl, her parents had been through an ugly divorce. And so she was messed up in the head because of this, okay? But you know what? I'm a very loyal person. And then also I had an extreme amount of lust for this girl. And then also, we both, I don't know if she has a good heart, but, we had some things in common. We definitely had some things in common. But like a lot of young people, once you have those feelings and you decide that you're in love and you start pursuing that, it just takes over. And there's no more logic. Logic is gone. Logic is over. Okay? And so we started really dating. And then the next year, she went to university, and I followed her there to university. And she lived in an off-campus apartment, and I also lived in an off-campus apartment, because this was, I guess it probably had to do too with me, having dropped out of university, because, I was feeling like, well, if she leaves, then I have no life again. And so, so I had to go too, and then it was just, more of this just, fighting, constant fighting, everyday fighting relationship type thing, and, so then, it was my time to go on a Mormon mission. Okay. So I was raised Mormon in the LDS church, and in that church, you have to go for 2 years as a man, and, you have to pay for this yourself, and you have to teach the church to other people wherever the church tells you and assigns you to go. Okay. And, doing this in that culture, in that Mormon culture, Mormonism is a very inclusive culture. So when you do this, you have to do this. If you don't do this, you're a failure. You've failed your family. You've failed your culture. You've failed your religion. You're an outcast. No girls are going to like you. They say that they program the girls in the church. You will only marry a returned missionary to try and put pressure and more force the men to go on these missions, right? And so, you can't say no. You can't just not go on a mission if you're Mormon. So I never wanted to go on a mission. I always thought, what the fuck, 2 years? What the hell is this? I don't want to give up 2 years of my life to do something that is like, especially my young life, that is like not in my interests. So again, there's this theme of like, I don't want to do what people tell me to do. I want to do what I want to do, right? And, I don't want to be living my life for other people, And so anyways, I went on the mission, and, I I went on the mission, and I was still dating with this girl, and we're going to get married when I get back, right? But you know what? Me and this girl, because we'd had a lot of lust or whatever, right? And so we'd been, what they call in Mormonism, fooling around, right? So we'd been doing some fooling around, sexually, before my mission, which, they tell you on your mission when they're training you in Utah at the Missionary Training Center, if you've been doing that with any girls, that you have chains around you. And these chains make it so that you can't teach with the Spirit of God. And so your mission is going to be a failure because you're blocked from feeling the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost. So you won't be able to teach with power to the people. And so, this just made me feel so guilty and just so horrible about myself. I had crippling anxiety and depression about this. And, them just constantly, at least once a week would come in and just tell us about how if you did that, you were just a piece of shit. And so eventually, I went and told my mission president, what I had done and everything. And he was like, well, it's okay, and, but, I would keep on like remembering new shit, like shit that, like sexual shit or something that I'd done with this girl, but that, I didn't remember before or something. And then, be like, oh my gosh, what if it's worse than what I confessed to or whatever, right? And so, I had this like, depression and anxiety, and it was like almost like psychosis, like over my guilt, over, what I had done. And so, and then at the same time, I didn't want to be on that damn mission, and I never had wanted to. And, I was causing trouble. Every companion that I had, because you got to stay in groups of two, so you like live with this dude. Every companion that I would have problems, or it would be like, they would be scared of me because I would be, like ready to fight with them, and they would want to be, out working. I had my fucking depression and worrying where, I just felt like shit 24 hours a day. Like I just felt like, like so fucked up 24 hours a day that I just couldn't even move, man. I just couldn't even move. Only thoughts that were going through my head is that I have chains around me and I am just a piece of shit because of the sexual immorality that I did with my girlfriend before I left. And I just couldn't get over it. And then at the same time, I missed my girlfriend so much, okay? And I couldn't stop thinking about her, okay? So, you know what? Eventually, I've always been kind of a ringleader, okay? I've always been kind of a ringleader, especially when it comes to, back in my rebel days like this, when I was really a rebel. I was kind of a ringleader in rebellious behavior. So everywhere that I would go, the groups of missionaries would start acting up and getting out of line, because I would start riling everybody up and encouraging everybody, in the zone, which each zone has like 30 missionaries, to do stuff. I have a way of making suggestions, and then people will think those are good suggestions and probably start doing it. And so, that there was problems wherever I would go, and the mission president was noticing this. So then they sent me out to this way far out place, way out in the boonies, where I would be like isolated, and I was with like all the rest of the guys who, it was kind of like the outcast colony or something for missionaries, right? But then, I was causing problems there still. There were still problems. And, what actually happened was that my companion, I started an ice fight or a snowball fight with the cars, the mission cars. They give us all like these cars that we drive around in for missionary purposes. And I started an ice fight, and which started pretty harmlessly with the ice and the snow. But then after it got out of control, somebody threw a gigantic brick of ice onto one of the windshields of one of the cars, which then crushed the windshield, and the car just the windshield went into the car. And then my companion, he was driving, and I started throwing grapes at somebody, and then somebody was chasing us with an ice block again. And so then without looking, my companion gassed it. He gassed the car and in reverse without looking. And then we went flying, backwards, and he ran into another mission car and we totaled both cars. And so this was like a bit, kind of a last straw, right? And at this point I was going to a psychologist for my problems, for my guilt problems, man, that I couldn't get over, and they started telling me, you're gonna have to take, my mission president, started telling me, you're gonna have to take medicine, because you are screwing up this entire mission. All the missionaries, are acting up, and you are the one who is starting it. And he said, so you have to take medicine for your depression, or else you have to go home. And I said, fuck you, I'm not taking any medicine. And so they sent me home. And so I got sent home from my mission. But you know what? I got sent home. When I got home, the guy, the president of the church there in my local area, he said, you come home with honors. I can tell that, you had your heart in the right place, but like, you know what, your mind was messed up, and it was. So anyways, so then, I was home and I decided, get married to my girlfriend. And, cause that's what Mormons do. They get married really young. So I was 21 years old now, and I got married to my girlfriend. And then, and with the fights continuing, just as it always was, extreme fighting. And, then, all the way up into marriage. And then 2 weeks later, after, we got married, my girlfriend, my wife now, decided that there was mega problems and that she didn't want to be married. And so she, ran away from our marriage and went back to her family's house. And then her psychotic brother, who, he was also a Mormon, he put his hands on her head and said this prayer where he said that he was speaking to God. And he said, I am God, and God is, now my words coming out of my mouth are God speaking. And he said, you're not supposed to be married to this man, and you need to leave him, and you're going to have kids with another man. And so this was like the love of my life. And, I just got married to her. And then, she was ripped out of my hands, out of my heart, so this really ripped my heart, out of my chest, and just, cut it into 1,000 pieces, cut it into 1,000,000 pieces. This was extremely traumatic for me. And I remember that the night that, after 2 weeks of them being away, or 3 weeks of her being away and me being like, what the hell is going on? Her mom and her came over to my parents' house where I was, and she told me, I'm leaving you, I'm never coming back to you. And I remember that night, I laid in my bed and I just screamed her name. I screamed her name for about 3 hours. I was just bawling and just screaming her name. And you know what? That was so fucking painful, man. That was the definition of pain. The definition of pain and suffering, okay? I'm a very resilient person. I'm a very resilient person, and I cannot be kept down. And so within days of that happening, I was thinking, even though I went through this most excruciating pain possible to be felt, the most excruciating emotional pain that is possible to be felt, I was already thinking, well, you know what? There's a lot of other nice girls out there, and, I like dating with girls. And so, maybe things won't be so bad. Maybe I can go out and find something. But I still felt like shit. Of course, I still felt like shit. Okay? But so anyways, long story short, I went and I got her back, okay? I eventually convinced her to come back to me. And we ended up being married and living together for 2 years, okay? And then after 2 years, of just more constant fighting, her being a feminist, and just emotionally not compatible on so many fucking levels. I just decided, you know what? I had a realization one day. I decided, if I don't end this marriage and I don't get away from this woman, it's going to be the end of my life. My life will not be successful. Her and me, both of us. Because you cannot be fighting with someone this much. You cannot be arguing with someone this much. You cannot be constant argue and fighting dailies, these apocalypse fights, and have a successful life. It's just hell, okay? That was what our relationship had always been based on. It had always been based on, like this loyalty and devotion and love for each other, this lust for each other, having common interests, and then fighting, constant fighting, okay? And so, she came home from school one day, because I had been in community college now. She had been going to community college, and I had been going to community college. I got back into college, and, she came home one day, and I said, listen, Marie, we can't do this. This is going to ruin our lives, fighting like this. We have to get a divorce. And she just looked at me and she said, okay. And so, but at that point, it was like, if I didn't put my foot down, because we had been back together, I got her back, we've been back together for 2 years, but as a woman, she couldn't make that decision, that I know a lot of people can, but some people can't, she wasn't able to make that decision of like, we're going to split up. The only way we were going to split up is if I did it. And I realized this, that we were going to be together always. And it was just going to be hell life for both of us unless I made the decision to cut it. And so I made the decision to cut it. I knew it wasn't going to be a joint decision. It wasn't going to be, it had to be me. I had to take responsibility. And this is probably the first time that in my life that I seriously took damn responsibility for my life, man. And so I said, yeah, and so, we got to do that. And so, we went down to court, got the divorce, and split up. And by this time, I had been studying psychology again at community college, while we had been married for 2 years. I'd been working at In-N-Out Burger to help support us, and I was the top psychology student at my school. And because I was into it now, because I am very into psychology, and so when I'm into something, I'm into something, man. I am obsessed with it. That's something that's always been that way my whole life. Whatever I'm into, I am obsessed with it, and I think about it day and night. I do it day and night. There's nothing else I'm doing in my life except for the thing that I am into, that I am focused on. It's an obsession, and this happens with any interest that I have. Okay, and so. I got into a very good school, University of California, and, transferred there, right after we got divorced. And so, I was into the university life now. Okay. And, the first thing that I did was, I thought I wanted to be a psychologist. I thought I wanted to be a psychologist. And so I started again, these first couple semesters of school, I got straight A's again. And, and then, I was sitting in these classes, and I was thinking, what the hell are these people teaching me, man? They were indoctrinating me. Well, they were attempting to indoctrinate me. Okay. And they'd be saying all this stuff and I'd be being like, man, this isn't even true. And because I was more mature at this time, I was 23 years old as a junior, transfer student in university. And so I was going, what, this is not true. What is this propaganda that people are teaching me? This indoctrination. And I just stopped going again. I stopped going to class, but I was still very interested in psychology. And so I just started doing my own psychology studying, and so I would go to the library and I'd read all the psychology books. I'd be on the internet researching psychology. And I'd just be learning about psychology. I'd be reading about all the famous psychologists, all the famous psychiatrists, all the works, all the books that they had written, and gaining all this knowledge. And so I got so smart at psychology and gained so much knowledge into my head that even though I didn't go to class, even though I didn't do any homework, even though I didn't do any studying, I would just show up to the classes on the days of the exams and I would still pass the exams. Okay, I'd get like anywhere from a C to an A on the exams, and I would do no homework, none of that shit. But just do the exams. And that was enough to get my university degree. All right, that was enough, to finally, get my degree, from university and have a psychology degree, just doing that, just taking things into my own hands. But, the stuff that they were teaching me there, man, it's like, it made me realize how evil the system is, how fucking evil the system is. And, because I was right in the middle of it, social studies and psychology, which you learn in psychology that no one is in control of the damn brains. You learn about all the experiments that all the psychiatrists have done on mental control and population control and mass group psychology. And you learn, how you can make people do stuff and you can make people think stuff by various techniques. And the human brain is like a computer, man. It's like you can download software into it and you learn all this stuff in psychology. And so I learned all this stuff and I was very disturbed, although it was extremely enlightening. And, the propaganda didn't work on me the way, because you're supposed to also intake a lot of that. They use the same techniques they're teaching about on you, but I'm pretty resistant to propaganda. And also I started taking testosterone when I was in university, and taking testosterone, my second year in university is when I started taking testosterone. And that is quite an antidote to propaganda, which is one of the reasons why it's banned, is because, it affects your mind. And it's like armor towards propaganda and being weak. So the propaganda was lame, and the university was lame. And then also the other thing is that, you think when you're going to go into university, you see all these movies, like American Pie or something like that, where you're going to go into university and it's going to be this big fun party, and, it's just going to be like chicks everywhere, and you've been in, anyways, you think it's like going to be like this big, sex party or something. And then, but you know what? If you're not a high status male at university, that's not going to happen. So my first year at university, I was just like a normal, I wasn't affiliated with anything, right? And so, I got attention and everything, I dressed good, and everything like that. And, a little bit cool or whatever, right? But it was definitely a huge letdown, and that's how it was for all the people around me too. But what I realized is that if you want to have a university experience, you have to join a fraternity. So the next year I joined a fraternity. I rushed the fraternity and I joined the fraternity, and then I had the crazy, wild college experience that I wanted to have, okay? Then that happened for me, okay? And that was totally wild. That was totally wild. I mean, some of the memories, if I can picture them right now, some of the memories of parties and stuff that I was at, totally insane, just absolutely ridiculous, messing around with like alcohol and stuff, girls. And anyways, that was an interesting experience, but I just realized how stupid the whole thing was. There was this emptiness to it, and man, what the hell? And then the other thing was that, I thought that joining a fraternity, it was like we were all going to be brothers, but I didn't realize that fraternities employ power politics. And so once you get into a fraternity, you actually have guys hating you. And, these guys that are supposed to be your brothers for life and you all have each other's back actually are secretly plotting your demise. And, they're plotting, and they expect you to follow a certain hierarchy. And if you do not follow that hierarchy, they're going to use political power to try and destroy you, socially, but also physically. They may physically attack you. And so, I got disgusted with the fraternity. And after 1 year, I dropped out of the fraternity, And I had to do a 5th year in university too. So I had to stay at the university for 3 years after 2 years of community college. So that last year, I did my own thing. And actually the last year after I dropped out of the fraternity and I started doing my own thing, that was when I really started coming into my own. By this time I was 25 years old, and I was really starting, when you're 25 years old, your brain changes, and it changes again when you reach 30. But I was starting for the first time to actually become a man now instead of a boy. And so things were changing for me. And especially this was the first time, after I dropped out of the fraternity, that now I started to really control my destiny with women, which was really important to me. That was really important to me. All my life, it had been a very important thing to me to like get with a lot of women. I don't know why that was something that was important to me, but it's important to a lot of men. A lot of men, find that to be, a very important part of life. And for me, it was, I didn't, from when I was a young boy, I didn't just want to be with one woman. I wanted to be with a lot of women. I wanted to have experience with a lot of women, different women, as many as possible. And again, this is something that, I experimented with for many years. And then this is also something too, as you get more mature, as you learn, it's also something that you can never find satisfaction in. Okay. So getting many women is something that can be very fun. And it's something that you think, hey, well, if I can get, a few hundred women, then that'll be an accomplishment. And then for the rest of my life, I won't have to feel like any pressure about it or anything like that. I will know that like I was a pimp or something like this, or I achieved this, or I accomplished this. Nothing could be further from the truth, guys. Speaking as someone who's older now, speaking as someone who's older and had these experience, there's no satisfaction in it, okay? In chasing lots of women. It's very fun, okay? But but just being more older and more mature now, it's an empty chase. And it's part of the propaganda stuff about the modern world, that we'll be going over more later in this podcast, about how we're taught all of these things that are not going to give you satisfaction. We're taught a lot about pleasure. We're taught a lot about getting gain, building your ego, building the self. But again, these are all things that are actually all meant to enslave you ultimately. Okay. But yeah, but anyways, I'm not going to say it's really important to control your own destiny with women. Okay. Especially in the Western world, to understand men and women's relationships to each other. And, the dichotomy, the difference, the opposite, the positive and the negative charges, and to be able to, know what a man is, act like a man, and, basically, in order to control your destiny, you got to get rid of all this programming, control your destiny with women, get rid of all this programming and really become the true man that you're meant to be. And then women will just flock to you, man. And because you have so much charisma. And and then when women get with you too, they will never want to leave you, man. They will be screaming and crying when you then decide that they're not good enough for you or whatever, or you don't want to stay with them forever. You don't want to get basically once you become the man that you are meant to be, which is what I'm going to be teaching in this podcast. Okay, how to become the man that you have the potential to be, how to become the man you are supposed to be. Okay. And how to throw off all this bitch programming and all this shit, okay? And so basically, once you do that, of course there are other easy ways to like get easy girls and stuff, get with easy women, who have low morals, low self-esteem, okay? But ultimately, that's not what you want. Like for one thing, because ultimately you want a lifetime, like wife or something like that, and you won't by learning those techniques. So there's different phases. It's basically like there's different phases. When you're young, it's more like it's fine because you don't care. You don't want to stay with anyone. You want to get with a bunch of girls. But when you're older, you need to have developed these qualities in yourself when you were younger, developing these qualities as a man, so that, you can break out of that and you can actually be the kind of man who would then, have a wife and a family, and be able to take care of them and be dependable, stuff like that, okay? So that was, I got off on a little women tangent there. So anyways, I guess I was talking about fraternities, and that kind of got me going with women. So anyways, yeah, so that last year actually of university, after I finished being in the fraternity, I dropped out of the fraternity, and I was just kind of like a lone wolf now. That was when I had first developed like serious self-confidence, and I was starting to become a man, and like for real. And then that was the first time that I really had like a lot of women, and a lot of success with women, and it was like man, like the doors of heaven opened up to me, right? Because that was like my dream up to this point, was to have that happen, and then it happened. Okay. And so I really felt like, like like the doors of heaven had opened to me. Okay. And I had found some mentors at this point too. Okay. One of the mentors that I found was Chris from Good Looking Loser, and also Victor Pride from Bold and Determined. And, so these were mentors that I found that really helped me on my way to develop my beginning. Okay. So during that last year at university, the other thing was that I felt like, well, shit, now I've done, I'm on year 5 of university, so I got to leave next year. And you know what? I don't want to be a psychologist. I don't want to go listen to people's problems. I don't want to go work in an office somewhere, and I just felt this feeling like I don't ever want to leave school still. I still felt this feeling. I don't ever want to leave school, because leaving school is just going to be the end of my life. And I'm not interested. And so I was trying to think of like, how are some ways that I can like stay in school and like stay in this like protected environment of school, and like this, you've got a social circle and everything and there, and like a social life built in for you and stuff, and you feel protected and safe in school. But this idea came back to me again about the original idea that I'd had about, you could go live in another country, Dan. And so I had a Vietnamese girlfriend at this time, my first Asian girlfriend. Okay. And at the time I thought, I'm not attracted to Asian women, but I was like, this girl's so nice. And, we were just dating, and then she was so nice that I was like, it like for the first time, it like opened my heart again. Like I really felt my heart open. And so I wanted her to be my girlfriend. And then we started dating. I fell in love with this girl, man. I fell in love with this girl, Michaela. And, she was from Vietnam, and she treated me like so compassionately, and the stereotypical way of the way that a woman treats a man. And I just felt so much love for this girl, and the kind of feminine role that she played in my life. I was completely obsessed with this girl. She wasn't particularly good looking at all. Or in extreme shape, but man, I was obsessed with this girl. And so I was like, what is this? And so I like developed like basically like what they call Asian fever, which is where you're like obsessed with Asian women, right? And where I went, okay, I only like Asian women. And I was basically attracted, all of a sudden, I'd never been attracted to Asian women before, but now this all switched, and I was only attracted to Asian women, and I was not attracted to any other women, okay? And so I caught Asian fever. And so eventually, after dating her for about 6 months, I started having this feeling again, like I need a lot of girls. And so I told her, like, we have to break up because I feel like I haven't experienced enough women. So we broke up, right? We broke up, and so I started, really trying to date all the Asian girls, and I started being obsessed with Asia. And this is still my last year in university. And so, I was thinking, I started thinking again about, what about moving outside of the USA? Because I was like, I hate living here, man. I don't want to be in this liberal hellhole, this feminist shithole, where everything is against white men and I'm the villain, doing nothing, being born with the color of my skin, and like all this bullshit. Everyone's racist against me. Everyone's sexist against me. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like this country has just completely fucking abandoned me. And I was like, this just sucks. I have to get out of this place, man. And so I was thinking, how can I remembered that there was this book called The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And I remembered that it was about him like leaving America and like traveling and like living around the world. And then there was this other thing. There was this guy who ran this website. I used to go on the bodybuilding.com forums, and there was this and there was this guy that would post on these forums sometimes advertising his website. It was called like a Farang or something, and he was this Indian guy who was living in Thailand, and he was financed. He had this Thai life, and he'd post pictures of his life in Thailand, right? And on the forum, and so he had this life in Thailand, and it looked awesome. And he was making his money from his blog. He was making his money from his website, and that was financing his life. And he was telling us about how much it cost to live in Thailand, and what the lifestyle was, and showing us pictures. And he even had a lot of Thai girls, Asian girls. And so I was like, damn, this was really impressive to me. And so this was like in my head that this was possible. This was possible because there was this Indian guy that was posting, about his website. And so then I was like, okay, well, since I'm not going to be a psychologist, I got to go like find out like how to work, like I got to find out like how to make a business or something like this, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the bookstore and I'm going to read this book by Tim Ferriss, The 4-Hour Workweek. And so I fucking drove over to the bookstore, and I opened this book, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and I sat in that bookstore for about 12 hours, and I read the entire book from the first to the back. And it basically told about his life, how again, he started a blog, and there was a few more other examples of other people who had started blogs on the internet. Blogs are websites on the internet, www.com websites, okay? And how they had done this, and they had then, sold whatever services or done affiliate marketing or sold t-shirts or whatever, sold books, whatever, and been able to finance a life traveling around and living in other countries. And they were able to like leave America or like leave England or leave Australia, wherever in the Western culture that they had felt alienated from or whatever, and then like live this life like traveling around the world, when what they called it at the time was a digital nomad. And I was like, damn, like this shook me, man. This shook me reading this book. And, I was looking for like instructions of how it would like tell me like, and then how can you do it, right? And here's how you can set up a business, and here's how you can do it too. But you know what? That's talking about creativity. And so creativity, there's no instructions for creativity, guys. It's mindset is that what allows, creativity to allow you to make stuff like this. So, you can't create the study of creativity. Study and learning about, people who are scholars and stuff, they study people who are creative. But, you can't create like, well, this is how you be creative or something like this. That's not how it goes, okay? So I was pissed about that in the book, and I was pissed that I wasn't able to, get like a roadmap that said, okay, now this is how you start it, and this is how you do it, and here's how you can have your business, leave America, and live around the world, But at least I knew it was possible, okay? I knew it was possible because I read this book. And so I was like, okay, shit. And I was now I was locked in, and I was like, okay, it's possible. And so I was researching. I was using all my time. I became obsessed with it, okay? And I was at university still. And now, that last year in university, I was just constantly researching how to make money online, how to make money on the internet, how to start a business, how to start an e-commerce business, okay? How to do affiliate marketing, okay? And so how to do SEO, search engine optimization, how to find niches, all this stuff. And we didn't even have social media back then, it wasn't invented yet. And so I started looking for a niche. And then, one of my mentors, he offered an opportunity about how I'll help you start a website. And so that you can start a blog, and then you can, you can start doing affiliate marketing, which is talking about products that you've used on the internet, and talking about them, and if they're good, and what your experience is with them, if they're bad, and then suggesting things to people, or not suggesting things to people, products. And then you can do this thing like affiliate marketing, where you sign up with these companies where they like give you a link, and then you can like get a cut, like, you know, between usually like 10 to 30% of the sale price. You can earn that for having, you know, driven traffic to them or driven sales to them, where people clicked on your links and then they, you know, people bought stuff from those companies. And so they taught me about how to like make a blog and how to like do reviews, you know, like product reviews, or like talk about substance, or like stuff, and different items, and you know, how you could create an educational website on the internet where whatever you were into, you know, or whatever you had experience with, whatever kind of things you had done or used, you could create a website on the internet that gave value about this subject, did education about this subject, and through that, you know, putting your knowledge out onto the internet, you know, people would come to your website, they'd search you on Google or whatever, they'd come to your website, and then, you know, if at the end of it, after they were done learning from your stuff, they would click on your links to go do your go get your suggestions, because they'd been learning from you. And, you know, if you put your face with everything, you know, it builds trust. And then, you know, people are gonna, you know, take your suggestions. And you know what, the internet's a huge place. It's not like a store where you've only got, you know, maybe 300 people, 500 people walking by per day. I mean, you got thousands and thousands of people coming by your shop per day, man, on the internet. Okay. You know, and so you have so many opportunities to make money with the internet. Okay. So I started my first website. My first website was about this herb from Asia called kratom. And it's a herb that it's like an antidepressant. It helps with anxiety. It helps with pain. It helps with like chronic pain. It helps with people who are like addicts from other things to like get off of those things. They can like come off of them using kratom like as a bridge. And it has addictive properties like similar to like coffee, caffeine. So I mean, it can form a dependence, but it's not super dependence forming. And so I started, and so I had been using this because one of my mentors had told me about it and told me that using it was one of the secrets to success with his whole life and everything that he did. And he was right. He was right. And because that was one of the things that really allowed me, you know, using the kratom was something that allowed me to see things differently and to kind of like get through some like social anxiety that I had, some insecurities that I had, some problems that I had, and really start like taking control of my life, actually. Okay, so I used kratom every day for 1 year, and then I stopped it, and I've never really used it again for like the rest of my life. But I've used, I mean, maybe 5 to 10 times since that year I've taken kratom like on a one-off. But during that 1 year, it had really benefited me and made me be able to like work in a way that I had not been able to work before. Like just like straight through working and maintaining a positive attitude and shit. And so I was an expert on this stuff, kratom. And so I found I got my website made. I made my .com domain name. It was kratomhappy.com. And I wrote all about my experiences with kratom on it. I wrote all about my experiences and everything about kratom. I taught people about kratom on this website. And then there was a big demand for kratom on the internet. And so, you know, when people would search, you know, kratom or whatever, you know, I had researched all the keywords, you know, for different things that people search about kratom on the internet. I'd made YouTube videos, I'd made, you know, blog posts on all of it. So now when people are talking about kratom, looking for information about kratom, they'd be coming to my website, okay, and to learn about kratom. And then after I taught them about kratom, you know, on my website, then I'd say, well, and then, you know, I talked to one of these companies that was selling it, and, you know, we made an affiliate marketing agreement. And so it was like, you know, they would send me 20% or 15% or something like that of their profits from every sale that, you know, came from my blog, from my website. And so, you know, people started, you know, taking my advice. You know, I'd be teaching them about kratom on the internet from my website. And then at the end of the article or whatever, I'd say, okay, and this is where I get my kratom. You know, if you want to buy the same stuff that I use, here's where I get it. And people would click that shit, man. People would be clicking that shit. And so I started making money fast, dude. Within launching that website, I think I made my first sale in 3 weeks. And then 3 months later, I was making a few $100s per week. And by this time, I'd graduated university too. But I could see that this online thing was real, and I was making money from it now. Not a lot, very little bit. I'd been in this for about 3 months. I was making about $200-300 a month at this point online. But things were starting to look up. Things were starting to look bright. I had my university degree, and but I still thought, shit, well, I got to get a job. So, because I wasn't making enough money to support myself, of course. And so my cousin, he was selling home security systems in Louisiana, and he was making like between $60,000 to $100,000 a year doing that, and commissions. And so he told me, come sell security systems with me in Louisiana. So I graduated university, and then like the next week I flew out to Louisiana. Okay, but the thing was that I had no confidence in this product. My belief was, why the fuck would anyone want a home security system in their house? This thing is pointless. And so, and so I was doing door-to-door sales, trying to sell this product that I thought I didn't believe in. Okay, so that did not work out, right? But I learned hard lessons about sales, okay, during this. And I learned a lot about the psychology of sales, okay? And so this experience, I was there for 2 months. This experience would benefit me for the rest of my life, okay? Having done those 2 months, door-to-door sales, it's hell doing door-to-door sales, getting doors slammed in your face over and over again, rejection, all day long, but persevering, and then, you finally get a sale, every once in a while, okay? And what kind of body language to have and everything. And how to talk to people, what kind of things you really need to. So this was like a crash course, because I got thrown into the fire. I got thrown in the fire of sales after I graduated from university, and I got this crash course in door-to-door sales and just selling stuff to people, okay? And so this built my psychology skills much more, my sales skills much more. But then, I dropped out of that after 2 months because it was not going good. It was such a hell, and I had to stop. Okay, so I went back to California, and I got hired right away by this protein bar company. And this protein bar company was selling protein bars in Costco. Like the people that we would go to Costco, okay, and we'd cut up samples of our protein bars, and we would have people, the customers in Costco like try the protein bars, and we'd travel to different Costcos all around, and we'd sell boxes of these protein bars. And the commission on this was unbelievable, man. And because I was a bodybuilder at the time, I could really, and I had just done door-to-door sales on a product I didn't believe in. So I knew now how to make sales, right? And so now here's me, Mr. Muscles, and I was in the Costco's selling protein bars. And so every person that came by, man, I knew you were gonna get strong. How to make you strong, man. And your kids, are they in sports? Oh, eat this protein bar. Here's how you take it. You take this protein bar at this time, before, you take it after, and you need these protein bars to help your kids be the best sports players that they can be, man. So take this box, take 3 boxes. No, you take 6 boxes, okay? And so I was selling more than 450 12-pack boxes of these protein bars per day in these Costco's, man. So I was making more than, $1,200 a week in Costco selling these protein bars, more than $5,000 a month. Selling protein bars in Costco. Okay. Because I knew how to sell it, okay? And so, again, I'd kind of been through the fire, kind of through the crucible. And that's the thing with your life, man. If you ever want skills, if you ever want to succeed, you have to go through the crucible. You have to go through the shitty times. You have to go through the hard times. You have to go through the times that fucking suck, where you're getting freaking doors slammed in your face. And you're just like, it's like things are not working. Things are not working. You're failing. This is where you're learning the most. This is where you're going through the crucible. This is where your future is being built, man. Okay? And so now, I was working this thing in Costco and I was making some money. And I was finally, making good money. And so I was saving up money and I was working with this girl. She was from Vietnam. She was older than me. But she was a friend, right? Not a romantic interest, just a friend. And we would be working and we'd be selling the protein bars every day. And she had traveled from Vietnam. Her dream was to come to America. And, I had told her, my dream is to go to Asia. I want to live in Asia. I want to run my internet business because I had my Kratom business going on, but it was on the back burner. And I said, I want to run my internet business and I want to be a digital nomad and I want to live in Asia. And she was telling me all about Asia. And then after work, we would go and we'd go eat Vietnamese food. We'd eat Asian food, and so this was like a big thing because now before I felt like Asia was so far away and I felt like it was like a different world. And I felt like that's impossible to leave my home country and go to Asia. That's impossible because it's just so far away and just so far from anything I've ever done before. I didn't have the confidence. But now I have this girl that had only come to America from Asia a few years ago. And we were talking about Asia, we were talking about the life in Asia and how it was, what life's like in Asia, and what it's like in Vietnam, what it's like in Thailand, what it's like, in China, all the different countries that she'd been to over there. And, her dream was to come over here. And now, my dream was to go over there. And so I started getting more comfortable. And this dream in my head to go to Asia and to leave America and to live around the world, to be a digital nomad, to be an entrepreneur, to have my own online business, and to be able to go wherever the hell I wanted to live and to be able to live my life on my terms. I have location independence, be able to make money anywhere I lived and be able to be in control of my destiny and my life. This picture started to really form in my head. I started to get a concrete image of what this looked like in my head. And so this kind of like what had started out as a fantasy, started becoming something that was very real, man, and firm, okay? Because one of the things is that every accomplishment that you do, every idea that you have, everything that you make, everything that is part of this world first starts out as an idea in your head, okay? It's an idea, it's a vision, and you have to work on that vision, and you have to make that vision more and more and more clear until it's just burning inside of you. That vision is just burning, man, inside of you, and you are going to make that vision into reality. You just take it out of your head. It's fully formed, man. It's fully formed, and you put it into the world, and by the sheer force of willpower, you make that vision reality in this world. You make it reality in this world for you, and you make it reality in this world for every fucking other person to see on this planet, okay? And so this is how things are done, man. This is how things are done in your life. This is how you make accomplishments, man. This is how you make your destiny come true. This is how you make your dreams come true, man. And so I was dwelling on this, man. I could see myself in Asia. I would be going to these different places. I was living like the Asian lifestyle, but in America, in California, going to all the little Asia, little Chinatown or whatever with this girl. And I could see this image in my head of me living in Asia and my internet business being successful and me financing my life and being a digital nomad, an entrepreneur, having my own business, not being dependent or a wage slave or dependent on someone else, not being paid wages that are less than what I'm making for a company, but instead being the master of the company and having all the money coming into me. And I was seeing this vision forming in my head. And you know what? That time was going by and my internet business was growing. My Kratom business was growing, man. And so now at this time, it's been about 4 months. I'm making about $800 to $1,000 a month now, after 4 months of having my Kratom business going, man. And I started realizing, you know what? I could finance a modest lifestyle in one of these Asian countries, from my internet business because it's growing and I've got some money saved up, for a buffer, while it keeps growing. from working my protein bar job that I was so successful at selling all these boxes of protein bars. Okay, and so things were really looking up, man. And you know what? This dream that I had was becoming reality, and so one day I just decided I'm doing it. I'm going to Thailand. And so I went on the computer and I was nervous as shit. I was nervous as hell, man. I was nervous as hell. But I went on the computer and I looked at flights. And I thought, I can't leave tomorrow. Of course not. But I thought, you know what? I'll give myself 2 months. I'll give myself 2 months to to keep on doing this and get ready. And then I'm going. I'm making the jump. I'm taking the risk. I'm walking off the edge of the diving board, man, blindfolded, but I'm making that jump. I am going to make my life what I want it to be. I'm going to force my reality. I'm going to force my vision into reality, force it into existence, okay? And I was dead serious because there was no other option except for my success, okay? I was dead serious, man. And so I bought that plane ticket. I bought that plane ticket from freaking San Francisco to Thailand. I'm going to Thailand in 2 months, man. And now the countdown was on, baby. Now the countdown was on. And so now I was, man, on a mission, man. I was just like, because now I had a deadline, right? And so I'm just doing everything, work, building my website, building my online business, and then having ideas to diversify my online business, start new online businesses so that I would have multiple streams of income. And so that, my idea was, once I got to Thailand, my idea was to start bodybuilderinthailand.com. Okay. And so we'll talk about that on the next episode. Okay. So I had, some thousands of dollars in my pocket, from my job, and I thought, I'm going to go to Thailand and I'm going to get a hotel there for a week and I'm going to look for an apartment. And cause I figured out the visas and everything, I figured out all the visa stuff and I'm going to get an apartment and I'm going to pay for the apartment up front for a few months. So I'll have a few months to live there. And then I'm going to fucking, throw my chips out on the table, man. Throw my chips out on the gambling table, man. Because, I was obviously so nervous and scared to be doing this, right? But it's like, I had to take risks in order to live my dreams, man. And the thing is that I refuse to not live my dreams, okay? I have the heart of a lion. And I was born with this, okay? I've always had it. I have the heart of a lion. I have so much perseverance and I have so much resilience. I cannot be kept down. I will achieve my goals. I will achieve the life that I want. And there is no other option. I will do it and nothing else is possible because of the force of my fucking willpower, okay? So all my dreams come true. I know this about myself. And so you know what? The days kept going by. I quit my protein job, like 2 weeks before I was going to leave, to Thailand. And, eventually that day comes up, I'm telling my family, I'm going to Thailand. I'm going to go live in Thailand. Everybody thinks I'm insane. Everybody's like, what? Are you crazy? And like, you won't stay there. You're coming back. You won't leave the United States. You're coming back. And I was like, no, I'm not. No, I am not. I am going to Thailand and I'm living my dream life. And, everybody's like, you're going to fail. Your online business can't support you. It's going to go bottom up. Everybody's doubting me. It's everybody, friends, family, everyone just, no way. You'll never make it. And I just had to say, you know what, everybody? I am me, man. You know what? You don't know, man. I have confidence in me. I have supreme confidence in my abilities, and I'm going to do this, okay? And so I don't need anyone's support. I am going to do this. As part of being a man, is you have to be confident in yourself. You have to know who you are and what you are capable of, man. And you have to force your reality. You have to force your visions into existence in this world, man, by the sheer force of your willpower and knowing who you are. And you don't wait for permission for anyone. You don't make for permission for anyone. You do what you are going to do, man. You are the one who is in charge. If you are a man, there's one person in charge of your life, and it is you. And you do not wait for permission. You do not ask for permission for anyone. You do it. Okay? If you decide to go against the standard program that's been written for you, that's been written out and said, okay, this is a program about how you're supposed to live your life. Okay? If you decide to go against that, don't expect support from anyone. Friends, family, nobody. Okay? Don't expect anyone's support. Don't expect anyone's permission. Expect everyone to be against you. Okay? If you're going to do that, and it's up to you, man. It's up to you to make your destiny. Okay? And so, here I am today. I'm in Costa Rica. It's been 8 years. Obviously everything succeeded for me, and my dreams came true. And I've been living around the world in so many countries and everything, and been able to totally be in control of my life. My wildest dreams literally came true. But it wasn't by accident. It was because I made them this way. And you know what, you can too. So. Yes, my wildest dreams came true, and I've been able to make my vision of my life, what it is, much more. My visions keep growing, and I keep on, building more and more this adventure that is the life of Dan Marquis. What an incredible story it has been. What an incredible book, my life makes. All the experience that I've been, which we'll get through on the podcast. But the moral of the story is that, man. Don't ask permission. Don't ask permission. Eventually that day came to get on the flight. I was ready. And I got on that flight to Thailand, man. I went to San Francisco International Airport, and I got on that flight to Thailand. And I could see all my dreams in my head. I was so happy. I was nervous. I was scared. But I knew I am on my adventure now. I'm going to make my dreams come true. My journey begins. Here is the start of my life.
Thank you for listening to the Grab the Bull podcast with your host, Dan Marquis. Until next time. Grab the bull by the horns. Well, that time, motherfucker!